Trevor Lawrence told Sports Illustrated, quote, I am not of the mindset that you've got to prove people wrong, that you've got to do more or you've got to do better. I am not a guy with a chip on my shoulder who needs to win a Super Bowl. Wow. Then his dad chimed in because, of course, every jerk-off millennial, here, let me do a close-up on Jake, has a dad who talks too much. See what I did there?
Yeah, I see.
Anyway, Trevor Lawrence's father said, quote, he's not, I want to win a Super Bowl at all costs. That's a problem. Oh, wait, we need to hear from Trevor Lawrence's high school coach, who said, quote, he could walk away from football tomorrow and be absolutely fine. Yeah, let's go ahead and draft him number 1.
Why are all these people talking? I don't. What was the strategy here?
That's exactly my point. Because when you're about to become a platinum millionaire, like he's going to be a millionaire 10 times over at least. He's probably in line to make $30-40 million as the number 1 pick in the NFL draft. And then more money than that in endorsements. Why are you doing interviews with Sports Illustrated? I'm just curious. I don't understand this. And I think there is real credence this morning in having a conversation about whether or not the Jacksonville Jaguars are making a huge mistake drafting Trevor Lawrence. Now, not that I told you so, and I have already dislocated my shoulder enough over the last month telling you how right I am, patting myself on the back. I've warned you about Trevor Lawrence for over a year. And I've told you, I've said it on every radio show I've been on, ESPN, like every show we've done. I've told you that I think Trevor Lawrence is not going to be a franchise quarterback. That's just my opinion. It has nothing to do with his talent. He is a laid-back surfer bra with a huge forehead. And I'm telling you, the mentality that fills that huge forehead is not, I'm going to do everything I can do to be the best quarterback in the NFL and win Super Bowls. And Jake, I think that's a problem.
Well, yeah, it's definitely a problem. I mean, it's super concerning. I think that one thing that I haven't heard anybody bring up in this conversation is the fact that he's probably been the best player on his team his entire football career. And so he doesn't feel like he's got to prove anybody wrong, which, is I guess I get that. But at the same time, that's just not the mentality that I think you want to be having as an NFL quarterback. And I think that, that on some level, kind of smells of arrogance on some level, but on another level, it just is concerning because you want the guy that you're drafting to have a go-getter mentality, to have a, we got to go and get this done mentality. And that's clearly not who Trevor Lawrence is after, him, his dad, his high school football coach, his cousin Nancy, and everybody else started talking. So again, this is one of the stupidest things I've ever heard. I don't understand why all these people are talking and like trying to speak about who he is and everything like that. Just stop. Let the guy go and make generational money. Go and get your money. Like that. Like that's what this should be about. And I don't get it. I just think it's one of the silliest things that I've really heard pre-NFL draft in quite some time.
Yeah, to me, I think the other narrative that this absolutely perpetuates and drives is what if Justin Fields had said these same things? And I know that this is probably tired and this will frustrate people. I'm telling you, being a black quarterback in the NFL draft means that you have to do it 3, 4, 5 times better than the next guy. If Justin Fields had said, yeah, I'm not going to do everything. I don't feel like I need to prove that I can win a Super Bowl. I'm not going to do everything I can to win a Super Bowl. I don't have a chip on my shoulder where I need to prove I can win a Super Bowl. If Justin Fields' high school coach had said, Justin can walk away from football and be fine, the narrative of Justin Fields as a lazy underachiever, which there's no evidence at all of that, none, zero, that Justin Fields is lazy or didn't achieve at an incredibly high level at both Georgia and Ohio State. No evidence of that whatsoever. But there's a narrative out there that Justin Fields is lazy and unmotivated. If he had said this, Justin Fields probably wouldn't have gotten drafted in the first 3 rounds of the NFL draft. And it would have been because he was a black kid that's lazy. And maybe you're not going to get NFL owners and GMs standing on platforms saying, hey, he's black, he's lazy, 4th round. Like, they're not going to say that.
Mm-hmm.
But that would have happened. Trevor Lawrence can get away with this and still get drafted number 1. And I'm telling you now that if you don't buy into this narrative that Trevor Lawrence is the anointed one, I don't know what you're looking at. And if you're not on the bandwagon, and Jake, you tell me if I'm being too strong on this, but if you're not on the bandwagon that being a black quarterback means you've got to do it 3, 4, 5 times better than the average white quarterback in college, I just don't know what world you're living in.
Yeah, I mean, I think it probably has gotten a bit easier as time has gone on, but I agree. I think that if you're a black kid who's a quarterback trying to make it in the NFL, yeah, you have a hill to climb. I think the question that I think is interesting is, let's say that you're a white wide receiver. Do you still have that same hill to climb? When's the last time we've had a great white wide receiver in the league? I think there's a huge conversation around, hey, by position, this is who we expect to be there. And if their skin color doesn't match that position, then what are we doing? So like white running backs, white wide receivers, black quarterbacks. Like there's this whole thing in the NFL, and it's literally the stupidest thing that I've ever heard of, really, because it really shouldn't be about what you look like. It should be about what your 40 time is. It should be about how soft your hands are, how strong your core is when you're battling for the football at the high point. Like, it should be about all this other stuff. Yet we just want to sit here and say, oh, well, because Justin Fields is black, he's not going to be as good as Trevor Lawrence. And even though Trevor Lawrence sounds like a complete moron today, and his high school coach and his dad and his family are saying the stupidest things you could be saying before the NFL draft, we're still going to go ahead and draft him number 1, and we're not really going to worry about it. And then 2 years from now, when he's soft and he's injured and he's not working out, we're going to say, well, maybe we should have considered Justin Fields. Well, that's your problem. Nobody else's. And it's just the whole thing is just it's just a very frustrating thing, because I feel like in the NFL, I legit feel like the NFL and the NHL are the 2 leagues that have the biggest racial issues.
Oh, yeah, no doubt.
Like Major League Baseball does not have racial issues. The NBA, goes without saying, doesn't have racial issues. So it just is, this whole conversation is just silly to me.
Would you draft Zach Wilson instead of, or let me put it this way, who would you draft as the number 1 quarterback in this NFL draft? Would you still go with Trevor Lawrence? Because for me, I think I'm looking at, in my personal opinion, I think you are Zach Wilson number 1, Justin Fields 2, Trevor Lawrence 3, and Mac Jones 4. Mm-hmm. I think there is something to this mystique that Alabama quarterbacks don't go on to be superstars. It's like USC QBs. Mm-hmm. You don't go to USC to be a starting quarterback in the NFL. You don't go to Alabama, Roll Tide, to be a starting quarterback in the NFL.
Yeah.
How would you rank these quarterbacks?
I mean, I agree with you that I think that the mental side of the game for Trevor Lawrence is a concern. The only concern that I have with Zach Wilson is just simply the size. That's the only concern. He's one of the smaller guys of the selection this year. I look at Mac Jones and I say, hey, that is another Josh Allen waiting to happen. The problem is that he's coming from Alabama, and Alabama, just like you were just saying, has this thing about it where they don't put out good quarterbacks. They put out linemen, DBs, and wide receivers. Sometimes a running back. So, I don't know. I think what you have to do in these situations is you have to just go watch the guy and decide for yourself. You can't go off of the past or mistakes or anything like that. For me, I would probably be going with Zach Wilson. I think he's got a great arm. I think from a mobility standpoint, he fits exactly what the league demands now, which is moving the pocket constantly, which is running, throwing at weird angles, and being a heady quarterback. And you notice you haven't heard Zach Wilson come out and say he doesn't care about winning. You haven't heard any of these other guys say that.
No, and Zach Wilson's parents aren't all over the media.
Yeah, I'm still really struggling with the idea of so wait, we thought it would be a good idea to go and do an SI interview.
Dude.
Okay. So wait, just on a surface level, okay. All right, maybe you want to chronicle his lead up to the draft, his time at Clemson.
Right.
Okay, I could kind of get that.
Right.
I could kind of vibe with that. But then you want to roll out and say that, hey, well, I don't really care about winning, and I just want to be a good dad and a good husband, and I just want to have a nice career. And then you have your dad and your high school coach saying all this stuff, and I'm just like, dude, are you trying to hurt your draft stock right now? Because that's what you just did.
Because you're doing everything you can do to not get drafted.
Was that the stated goal that you wrote on the whiteboard in your basement before you showed up for the interview? I don't know, man. It just is. It's very weird to me.
Did you just call his whiteboard fat?
Yeah.
Anyway, my point is, I agree with that, and already, Barry, as usual, is tweaked over my racial takes. Barry says, you make everything about black people versus white people, and it's frustrating. I don't make everything black people versus white people. We're talking quarterbacks in the NFL, so of course it's black people versus white people.
Do you want us to get into the Rooney Rule?
Right?
We can get into that.
If you look at the NFL, what do you really have? You have a bunch of white billionaires not hiring black people to run their teams or be their quarterbacks on par. And the idea that black quarterbacks are not elite, or I just point to Russell Wilson, some guy that used to have a dad that was a baseball player who's now the quarterback of the Kansas City Chiefs, Patrick Mahomes. I look at Warren Moon, who's arguably one of the best quarterbacks ever. By the way, he's black. Like this idea that black quarterbacks don't achieve. What was Randall Cunningham? What was Michael Vick? What was Steve McNair? The list is endless. Before Deshaun Watson started flying masseuses in, what was Deshaun Watson? You have Kyler Murray. You have all of these narratives that just have no basis in fact or evidence. And if you truly believe, Barry, with all due respect, Barry is one of our most devout listeners. I respect your opinions. I love your sense of humor. You're wrong about this. We don't make everything black and white. In the NFL billionaires make it black and white. And they're not even trying to hide it.
Unless you're standing up for your rights, and then you're going to get blackballed.
Yeah, and you're not going to be able to vote in Georgia.
Yeah.
But you're not in the National Football League. That Eric Bieniemy is not a head coach in this league is terrible. That Louis Riddick is not a general manager in this league is terrible. And yes, I believe that's largely because they're black. And I think when you are a black man trying to get a job as a head coach or a GM or a president of player personnel, you have to do it better. And you had better have a perfect track record, because if you lost a single game, well, you know what? Bieniemy didn't win every Super Bowl in the last 10 years. Probably shouldn't hire him as a head coach.
But this average-ass white head coach, we're going to go ahead and hire him, even though he was below 500.
Who has been hired 5 or 6 other times. Or we're going to hire, Zach Taylor. With all due respect to Zach Taylor, we're going to hire Zach Taylor, who's never been a coordinator, a head coach, a leader. He's never even been in a leadership position in the NFL or at college. We're going to hire him to be the head coach of the Bengals.
Yep.
Are you serious?
Yep.
Are you
That's the league, man.
And then you want to turn around and say that this league doesn't have a race issue. If Justin Fields had said that he doesn't have to prove anything and he doesn't have a chip on his shoulder that requires him to win a Super Bowl, that kid maybe would not get drafted at all. And the narrative of, he's a lazy black kid would be loud and clear. And I think it would be the controversy of all controversies. But Trevor Lawrence said this, who is the anointed number 1 pick 3 years ago. He was anointed the number 1 pick in this draft. Oh, because Trevor Lawrence said that and he's white. And this is just his dad looking out for him.
Yeah.
We're just going to gloss over this. Urban Meyer's not probably even going to know about it. And we're just going to draft him number 1. And then when he's a bust, it's just going to be, sometimes quarterbacks don't work out. But if you'd have drafted Justin Fields number 1 in Jacksonville and he'd have been a bust, well, there's another black kid. This is why you don't draft black quarterbacks.
Two-way street, man.
Tell me I'm wrong.
Yeah, it's a double standard for sure.
Tell me, absolutely it is.
Yeah.
Absolutely it is.
Yeah.
Gabe Ledley says, congrats, my dudes. Everything earned, not given. Thank you very much. Gabe's talking about,
Thanks, Gabe.
I think, our YouTube stats and stuff. We appreciate that very much. He also says, Trevor Lawrence being mentored by Jay Cutler. Nah. Yes.
Dude,
he is. Very clearly.
It's just so dumb, man.
Yeah. Daft Punk 419 says Jamarcus Russell was a good black quarterback. Well, how'd that work out? I mean, and the issue is, and maybe this is my point, when a white quarterback busts, it's just, sometimes quarterbacks don't work out.
Ryan Leaf.
Sometimes quarterbacks just don't work out, Jake.
Kirk Cousins.
Ryan Leaf just, okay. Why? Why bring up Kirk? He's a fine NFL quarterback. It's not funny.
I think it's funny.
But some of these quarterbacks just don't work out.
Mm-hmm.
But when Jamarcus Russell busts, well, that's why you don't draft quarterbacks, that are black and at the top of the league. He was lazy. Look how fat he was. He had a purple drink. We don't talk about that Ryan Leaf had an addiction issue. Ryan Leaf talks about that Ryan Leaf had an addiction issue.
Yeah.
Right? But no, we don't know. Oh, that's my point. Sean says Justin Fields is a better first overall pick. He is. I agree with that. Gabe Ledley says, love you, Barry, but acknowledging realities that people who are otherwise unaffected would rather ignore is different than making it about. Yeah, I would agree with that. We had this conversation yesterday, and I don't know how many people go back and read like comments but there were so many comments yesterday removed by YouTube on our channel over voter suppression in Georgia.
Yeah.
That's how bad that conversation got. We had so many people that violated YouTube's turn. I think it was half dozen. We only have, 360-something followers now.
Subscribers.
God, how can I not get that language right?
Shame.
We only have 364 subscribers at this point. To get half a dozen people, noted for terms of service violations because we said that we believe the voter laws in Georgia are racist. And by the way, did you see the cop in Minneapolis is going to be charged with second-degree manslaughter?
Good.
She's in jail.
Good.
So many people were upset I said that too. But anyway.
Always going to be somebody.
Yeah. Here are the quarterbacks I would draft, and this is the order I would draft them in. If I'm the Jacksonville Jaguars, I would draft Zach Wilson number 1. If I am the New York Jets, I would take Justin Fields number 2. And then I think it's a real crapshoot down the line. I think Mac Jones is the third best. And then I think, I think Trevor Lawrence is the third best, and I think Mac Jones is the fourth best.
Okay.
That's the order that I would go in. If you are the Jacksonville Jaguars, what's the right thing to do here?
Well, I think you got to just stick with your plan. I mean, you pretty much hired a head coach specifically because you knew that you were going to be the number 1 overall pick. So you hired Urban Meyer. You wanted to have him because he was a absolute amazing head coach in college.
Yep.
Even though he had all the off the field garbage that I think should preclude him from being in the NFL. But here nor there, he's great with college kids, and so I think you just have to stick with your plan. I think this doesn't sound great, but are you honestly going to sit here and say, well, now because he said that, we're just gonna forget that he's got all this talent, forget that he's moldable, and we can do something with him? No, I don't think so. If I'm them, I stick to their guns. I think that's the realistic thing that I think an NFL team would do.
Yeah, I think the real intriguing thing here is, let's be honest, Jacksonville's going to take Trevor number 1.
Yeah.
Zach Wilson's going to the Jets number 2.
Mm-hmm.
What are the 49ers going to do at 3?
I think they're going Mac Jones, dude.
Nah, I think they're going Justin Fields. I mean, if you saw, by the way, did anybody notice how many pro days Justin Fields has had to have?
Like 50?
He's had 2 because not a lot of people showed up for his first one. And it's like, really? No, I'm not going backward. Anyway, he did really well at his second pro day yesterday, and I look at where the 49ers are. He does everything that offense requires. Like, Justin Fields is mobile. He can throw on the run. He can throw deep. Like, Justin Fields is a great fit. I think, frankly, Zach Wilson's the best fit in the draft for the 49ers at quarterback.
Uh-huh.
I'm still convinced they're going quarterback at number 3, and I think it's Justin Fields. I'm interested to see what happens at number 4, because that is currently the Atlanta Falcons.
Yeah, they need to take a quarterback.
I don't think they're going to draft there. Mel Kiper put out his draft yesterday, and he kind of stole my thunder because he has the Falcons trading out of the 4 spot with the Miami Dolphins, who are going to get Kyle Pitts, the tight end in Florida, out of Florida.
Yeah, I don't know why you wouldn't draft a quarterback here if you're the Falcons. I don't know why you would trade out of that spot unless you think that there's going to be a decent option later in the draft. But it's time. Like it's time to get the successor to Matt Ryan in the organization.
Well, yeah. If you're the Falcons, my question is: a lot of people wonder if the Dolphins are looking for a quarterback.
Oh, they are.
And I just keep asking, how many quarterback mistakes are you going to make?
Yeah, I mean, at some point they got to take someone that's as low risk as possible. They need to get there.
Well, that wasn't Tua.
Yeah, that wasn't Tua. That wasn't Josh Rosen. That wasn't any of these guys. They missed on Tannehill clearly.
Yeah.
So yeah,
I think there's no doubt Atlanta's drafting a quarterback. And if I'm Atlanta at I don't know why you would trade out of the 4th spot if you really need a quarterback. Any of these 4 quarterbacks, Trevor Lawrence, obviously Zach Wilson, Justin Fields, Mac Jones. I think Mac Jones is going to be a fine NFL quarterback.
Yeah. He's a prototypical NFL quarterback.
Yeah,
He's got the size. He's not
got a
as
gun.
mobile, but he's got a great arm.
Yeah, I would be surprised if he traded out. Anyway, hey, if you're watching the show right now, make sure you give us a thumbs up. Thumbs up right now. Like this video, please. And give us a subscribe. Hit that subscribe button. Really appreciate it. If you're just tuning in, yes, we have picked up an enormous amount of subscribers in the last 28 days. Ring the bell. Ring the bell.
Shame.
It's embarrassing.
Yeah.
It's subscribers. In the last 28 days, we're trying to get to 500 as quickly as we can. So please, if you're watching the show, give us a subscribe. The Nye Guy, what's up with you, says, I know I'm not talking same draft class, but as a diehard Cardinal fan since Christ was a small boy, I'd trade Murray and the whole farm for Herbert in L.A. Oh, man. That's my guy. I love Justin Herbert. And I think a lot of people missed on him. Don't trade Kyler Murray. I think you have Cliff Kingsbury, who I affectionately call Cliffy.
The Cliffster.
The sexiest man alive.
Right.
I'd hit that. Okay, that's probably one step too far.
Yeah.
But you have Cliff Kingsbury and Kyler Murray teamed together. And you're starting to see that this offense is coming together. You have all these weapons offensively. Now you have a legitimate defensive front. You have somebody in J.J. Watt who can play. Who can play with Jones. I think the Cardinals are in a great spot. This is a playoff team now, in my opinion.
Yeah, well, they've been a playoff team going into every season for the last 3 years, and at some point you're going to have to take that next step forward. You've got Hopkins, you've got AJ Green, you've got JJ Watt.
Stop it! It's D Hop. Please.
Yeah, D Hop. My bad. Sorry.
If you could just go D Hop.
Yeah. Sorry, D Hop.
Red Sea.
Right. Anyway.
AJ Green's going to get hurt. So just, you have Andy Isabella. And I agree with Sean 100%. He says, we are bolts up. We are not giving Herbert up. Find someone else.
Nope.
Sorry.
No.
Cheers to you, my friend.
Yep.
Totally agree with that. Now, if you want to trade him to the Chicago Bears, please call. Because Justin Herbert, I think, is on the precipice. He's at the threshold, which means he's really close to being the best quarterback in the NFL. I think in the next 3 years, if he stays healthy, I think that Justin Herbert's going to be the best quarterback in the NFL. And I look at, by the way, the other team in LA, Super Bowl or bust. You go all in on Matt Stafford like that, Super Bowl or bust.
Yep.